Alrighty, good evening and welcome to Nycos Nightly. I'm Jonathan Albin, Game Master J, your host, and I'd like to take you on a voyage with me, if you will, to talk about all kinds of things pertaining to life and beginning with my primary passion, which is RPG games, role playing games. And if you are not familiar with that concept, I'd love to share that with you. Role play games is a mechanism for communication and sharing of a communal experience in a fictional realm generated by the storyteller game master who guides the other players into this shared experience, and the adventurers gather information and learn and build their personalities and become more. Now, tonight we're going to be doing this as we always do, and the first time we've done this in the just chatting environment because we are sort of embarking on a side mission, and that is to introduce people to roleplay that may not have had an experience with it before. There are, of course, channels that are dedicated to role playing, whether it be Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or one of the other titles, or just general tabletop role play. And in this case, I wanted to share in the just chatting realm the ideas that we're going to be talking about. Now, I also record these videos and they get submitted up to my YouTube channel, which is at NycosRPG on YouTube. And there you can find 350 plus videos of everything from my game sessions that I've run to presentations that I've made across the country to tips and tricks and techniques like this. And tonight we're going to be adding some more Game Master secrets to that longer agenda, and I'm going to be going over them here. If you haven't yet joined our channel and you like what you're seeing so far, make sure you follow us here on Twitch and join our community over on YouTube as well by subscribing. That way you'll be updated whenever there's new videos that come out. Now, in this case, tonight we want to talk about some points that are really kind of useful for game masters. Perhaps they are new and are just starting into the game, or may have a lot of experience but don't know how to breach into new games groups and to bring more people. So let's talk about those. One of the first is, of course, reading the room. Now, I'm in a completely new space here in the just chatting environment, and while I don't normally do long form videos, if I have persons that come on and communicate with me via chat, I'll be glad to carry on conversations that extend far beyond my normal time frame on the show. So if you like something you're hearing and you want to be a part of it, make sure you jump onto the chat channel and let me know what you'd like to talk about, and I'll add it to the growing list of things that I want to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is, in the terms of role playing, one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your games group is to learn how to read the room. And while that sometimes is perceived as being a negative, because a person who is reading the room is playing off of emotions and interacting with people in ways that perhaps were not their primary agenda, the idea here of reading the room is to see what the players are enjoying, what part of the story they are getting the best benefit out of, and give them more of that particular thing. This concept of being able to read the room does allow a game master to extend the excitement and thrill of an encounter by knowing that what is being experienced by the players is something that feels really comfortable to them and really something that they're looking for, and thereby keeping them going. A second aspect of role-playing games that comes up often is the idea of when you are making decisions in game, many times game masters will lean heavily upon the random factors of the game and suggest that players need to use dice to determine an outcome or decide a conditional response. And if you learn when you are being a game master to use dice sparingly, you give the players more direct agency, you are able to tell a more coherent story, and there aren't as many of those unfortunate conditions where you anticipated a certain outcome, but the dice fail you and you got a completely different outcome than you expected. So utilizing die rolling in a sparing fashion simply means that when the dice rolls do matter, they matter a lot, and when they don't matter and you're just wanting to narrate the story, you just continue to press the story forward. When you are a storyteller, and this is actually true even if you are a salesperson, if you are wanting to engage the people with whom you're speaking, you need to learn to write open-ended conversations, open-ended encounters. And by doing so, you let other people's inputs affect the outcome of the conversation. If you want to know something about somebody, ask them an open-ended question and you will get a more heartfelt answer because they have the freedom to go wherever they want to with that result. This open-ended encounter mechanic also means that the players can choose how much of the situation they wish to address in the game and how much of it they'd rather avoid. And by being open-ended, you're able to sculpt the story around their answers and therefore make it a more engaging encounter overall. Now, I mentioned here, always be at the top of your game, and what that really means is you don't want to phone in your role as a game master. If you are the person in any environment where you are directing the outcome, you should at least be present in that moment to make sure that your outcomes are at least directed the direction you want to go. Of course, I'm a little bit blatant in this because I've written a book called Top of Your Game, The Guide to Winning at Everything, and that is available through Amazon.com. If you do Amazon.com search under Jonathan Albin Author, you'll find my page and be able to purchase the book. But the top of your game concept is play to your maximum in terms of being playful yourself. If you want the players to engage, you've got to be engaging. If you want to be excited, you must be exciting. And this energy that you bring to the table brings forth responses from others. And of course, as a broadcaster on Twitch, I certainly hope to build my audience, and I would like to be able to engage with other people. And this is one way where I'm trying to, so much as I can, be at the top of my game and bring you the best information for your game session. And so by remembering that you're there to enjoy the game and be a part of it, make sure you're getting the fun that you should be getting out of it, and don't consider it to be an occupation, a drudge, or work. Because if you're not enjoying it, if you're not getting the thrill out of the gaming, then maybe you should be considering how you're being involved, because it's really about the collective entertainment. Now, you've heard people say that you should never build your castle on sand. You should always build your castle upon a foundation that's solid and secure. Well, I'm going to say, from a storytelling standpoint, it's a lot more enjoyable if you build your house on sand. And of course, this is a pun. I'm famous for those. But with the idea of yes and being a tropic example of utilizing improv in your game session. When you build your castles in yes sand, that means that the players, as you described the story, can pick up and run with whatever they see within the story, and you're going to be able to amplify and make it even more thrilling and engaging and interesting, because you're going to be able to agree with them and move the story forward by merging that concept in with your own. So yes, and we're going to do this as well. And isn't that cool? And when you build your castles in yes and, when you build your stories on this more fluid environment, your players don't get bogged down. They don't feel like they've gotten lost. You're able to give them more purchase, if you will, on the surface of the game environment, and thereby bring them with you to that higher plane of enjoyment. Now, this next one I think is really kind of important too, and that is that in gameplay, the dice rolls don't necessarily have to matter, but when they do matter, make them matter more. And so by allowing players to actually invoke things that are functionally impossible through the story, provides you the opportunity of making things really mystical and powerful for the players without having to compromise your story. Let them perform the miracles. Let them be the ones who make something that shouldn't have happened happen. I had a situation tonight where players that were in the game shouldn't have been able to beat the villain by all rights. They were cornered, they were up against the wall, and yet in that decision, one of them made a call for an action and put themselves in the line of fire and rolled a ridiculously good number. It was staggeringly so, given the number of failures they'd had earlier in the day. So naturally, you have to reward that. And so I was able to put them in a position where when that die roll came up, it changed the world, changed the dynamic, and they became instantly the heroes to the others that were around, because this action was functionally a miracle. It was that 1 in 100 chance, 1 in 1,000 chance that really changes the flavor of the encounter and makes them feel like they were very important and special to the campaign. When you do that, you give them reasons to keep coming back to your sessions week over week, because they who doesn't love that feeling of thrill and excitement, and it doesn't happen every week. It might be 6 or 8 weeks before somebody else happens to get to that miraculous place, or even have to deal with the negative of a situation that you've rolled particularly well. Let your players feel the miracles. Let them see and appreciate what's going on, and give them room in the story to make light of it, make value out of it, and build themselves up, because really what role play is about is the players enjoying being in the position of other people in another world where things work differently. This also plays to those situations where there are no dice rolls involved, and that is that you want to learn how to reward players who do particularly appropriate, particularly heroic, particularly dynamic, or just basically beyond the sphere acts. If they do something that was unexpected and is not anticipated to ever be repeated, then sure, let them have that, and reward it in game. Find ways to make them feel that value and their worth, and that will therefore come back to you in spades when they play to a higher level of expectation. It's really critical that the players not only feel like they're part of the game, but that they are driving the game and the story matters. And one of the ways to do that is to reward them when they've done something particularly outstanding. From a gamer standpoint, game master standpoint, I recommend every person that is the storyteller to study the improv arts, the improvisational arts, because when you are an improvisational comedian or an improvisational dramatist, you're able to bring much more to the scene, because you're able to roll with it as the other players engage. And by doing this, you're able to create for the times when it's really rollicking fun, you can make it exceedingly so. And in those places where you want it to be particularly poignant and dynamic, you can put that pressure on too. And both of these end up building a better foundation for player experience, because they are getting what they need to get from you. And then finally, develop anthology thinking. And this is if you run campaigns, if you run single shots, maybe you're just a salesman who tells lots of stories. Develop the idea that your stories are an anthology, a group of related stories, so that you can roll from one to the next, because that mechanism gives your players the feeling of continuity. And one of the big pluses of running a long trail campaign where you're running the same story week over week is that players get to be a part of it and want to be engaged in the overall development of the story. But even if you're not running that, if you're running a bunch of single-shot adventures, if you're able to build the continuity from story to story to story through the idea of them all being an attached or connected anthology, your players will feel that connectiveness, and that will cause them to come back session over session. Alrighty, we're going to move from the Game Master Secrets over to from Nycos Launchpad. Here are the 9 things you need to know. And these are not associated with role playing per se, but these are things that you as a human being should be aware of. And sometimes the world and people around us and the influencers that get their hooks into our lives, sometimes they don't do the justice of sharing this information, and I hope to do so with each of these vignette episodes. So the first thing you need to know is that in the world, you hold the keys, you hold your own destiny in your hands. There are times when we feel like we are overwhelmed by the activities of the world, and if we're young, we consider that we've got the overburden of parents and teachers. If we are in school, we feel the professors and educators have control over our lives and such. And while it is true they do have influence on it, you need to realize that you hold your own destiny in your hands. You are the one who decides. As one of the Bushes, I don't remember which one, famously said, you are the decider. You're the one who makes the decisions. And when you give yourself permission to make those decisions and take ownership of them and feel the responsibility for them, then you are going to feel the dynamic shift in your life. Because when you are controlling your life and making your own decisions and acting on your own, you get to take the pride and the responsibility for your actions. And these are very heady experiences, but they're also very valuable because we are empowered when we make the decisions and take the actions. I do want to say that if you're watching this video, I am a firm believer that we are being led by destiny to be where we are. So if you're reading this right now, you're supposed to be reading this. This is where you are supposed to be. We're supposed to be communicating, and I'm hoping that you're taking in what I'm saying and listening, because there are those who will look at this video and cut it off and shut it off and not consider it. But this message isn't for them. This message is for those of you that are listening and are hearing what I have to say. Because everything happens for a reason, and maybe more than one. The reasons that things happen may be myriad, but there's a particular reason why you clicked on this video right now, and I don't know what it was, and I don't know that it will be something you'll recognize right now. You might have to watch this the 3rd or 4th time before you actually hear it. But if you're listening right now, you're supposed to be. If you have people in your life that are detractors and they're trying to tear you down or undermine you or question you, just realize that detractors are only that way because they haven't been you. They haven't walked in your footsteps. They haven't seen what you've seen. They haven't experienced what you've experienced. And a detractor is nothing but a springboard. As you may know, the concept of opposites attract, and for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. If somebody is saying something adversarial in your direction, just springboard off of it, because it's energy. They are wasting their energy talking down who you are, and they haven't been you, and they don't know, and so therefore consider it to be a positive push to your world to get out the message you're supposed to say, because we are all storytellers. From our youth to our old age, we are constantly telling stories. And if you have stories that you need to tell, by golly, go and tell them. Tell them far and wide. Start up a little video channel if you need to. It's perhaps no one will ever watch your videos. I've definitely felt that with the hundreds of videos that I've made. There are some of them that were real stinkers, and there are others that I thought were really useful, but I didn't get a lot of response out of them. Nonetheless, we're supposed to be wherever we are. This is the world as it is, and the world as it is something we are here to interact with. Do I put a limit or a boundary on this? No. So this video might not be seen by you until 10 years from now. I might, who knows, I might have passed on, but this story might be critically important to you. And you need to know that you have a story to tell and you should be telling it. And I say all of that because of this. We're all entwined. We're all engaged in the same universe at the same time. And the momentary fleck of you clicking the button to watch this video and listen to me talk was intentional. And you are supposed to be here. And just like a ball of twine, we're all engaged. I don't know who started it rolling. I'm not going to conjecture. I have my, of course, my own high ground, so to speak, my own moral position. But in reality, we have to be able to recognize that we are engaged in a world that we're only going to get to live in once, and so we should be out by like twine. We should be having a ball. Let's put away the difficulties and challenges, and let's acknowledge each other's opinions. But by golly, let's do what we can to have a ball while we're here. I do want you to remember that you have to defend yourself. And what I'm saying there is I'm not talking about martial arts. I'm not talking about jujitsu. When I say defend yourself, I mean you are assailed every day by beings and spirits and God knows what that want to tear you down. And you are the only person that can defend yourself, and you need to defend yourself. And by that, I mean be prepared to make statements of your faith and your commitment to life, and be ready to hold your ground against those that would oppose you, because you're the only one that can. Nobody else will. I know it sounds horrible, but the reality is that no one else in the world has been you, and so you have the unique benefit of that experience to share with others, which is why you need to be a storyteller. You need to put your message out there and defend it, because nobody else will. We're coming to the end of this, and I want to talk about, there's a great song, I believe it's by Moody Blues, called 22,000 Days. And if you run the numbers on it, 22,000 days is about 70 or so years. And the idea is that we have 22,000 days or so in which to engage in this life. We should enjoy every one of them, for the good or ill. We should look at it with the lenses of we are alive and reach for the sky and keep our feet on the ground at the same time, because we need to enjoy the time we have, because we don't have anything else to do with it. Why be sad when you can choose to be happy? I know there are people that will challenge my philosophy, and that's okay. I'm glad to hear their defenses. But the reality is that I'm here to have a ball. I'm here to enjoy life. I'm here to share with you, because these 9 things you need to know are only part of what you need to know. And so each one of these I do is different, and we talk about a lot of different things. But here's really the point. I'm a gamer. I've been a game master and storyteller for 45 years, almost 50 years. The next year it will be 50 years. And having a legacy of gameplay, I recognize something that maybe not everybody gets, and I want you to know it. The reason why it's one of the 9 things you need to know is that when we win, we can learn. We don't have to just exalt in our victory and pretend like nothing else happened. We can hone our skill and therefore increase the chances of those victories. But we can also do so when we lose. When we lose, we certainly get perhaps a more direct taste of what needs to be learned by us, but we're given the opportunity. And so whether you win or you lose, you will learn. But really it comes down to this, as the bottom line here says, just get out and play. For the goodness sake of the world, why would you stay locked in a space and a framework where you are feeling stress and nervousness and disgust and all of the other emotional states that you could have when you have the choice to be happy, to be joyful, and play. Alrighty, now we're going to swap over to the Launchpad. Alright, people have asked me before, what is the Imagination Launchpad? What is it I'm talking about? What am I proposing? And why would somebody else want to hear any of it? And so today we're going to talk a little bit about why you would want to use the Launchpad. Why do you actually need the Launchpad? And I used to like the way that I think it's I didn't know which comedian it is, did the you might be a, I believe it was you might be a redneck, and each of his little one-liners were things that might be indications that you might be that. And in this case, I want to talk about what it is that you might have going on in your life where you might need the Launchpad. So if you don't dream, and by dream I mean if you don't envision a future where things can be better, you might need the Launchpad. The idea that our thought processes get locked into bad patterns and we remain there and build only frustration and anxiety instead of building new possibilities and imaginative thoughts is critical. So you may need the Launchpad if you don't have the capability or don't feel that you have any dreams. If you can't remember being funny, if you can remember being funny, most of us have a period in time where we look back and we go, yeah, we were actually pretty clever, we were pretty smart, or whatever. But if you can remember that, you might need the Launchpad, because it gives you a way to not only recapture that joy, that cleverness, but also be able to utilize it to make changes in life and improve your overall status with the skills that you might learn. If your work output is suffering because you've been doing it so long it no longer makes sense to you, you might need the Launchpad. Launchpad provides you the ability to consider what you're doing and bring joy back to your life on a moment by moment basis, and reward yourself in those places where you are making the successes again as you did when you were younger. If you can't remember the times in your life when you were happy, if you look back and you only see places of sadness and grief, you might need the Launchpad, because Launchpad provides you not only the inkling of recollection and how to build on those past thoughts, but it also provides you the means to create new imaginations, new memories, and new concepts that lift you out of the doldrums and make you a happier person generally. If you are feeling like you're in a rut, you might need the Launchpad, because the Launchpad is about elevation. And I know we've all heard phrases like your attitude determines your altitude and things like that, but very few mechanisms teach you how to not only gain that elevation, but how to navigate in those new and rarefied spaces that you can get to through imagination. If you find yourself canceling other plans just to go back to work or stay at work, you might need the Launchpad, because the concept of teamwork versus team play is critical. We need to consider how to make our engagements with work a part of a dynamic and exciting lifestyle instead of a drudgery and routine and arguably a negative place. When you find your circle of friends dwindling, getting closer and closer to the dreaded zero, or your connections are losing their luster, you might need the Launchpad, because Nycos Launchpad affords you the opportunity to bring more people into your circle, to imagine yourself in a place where other people want to be where you are and to create for yourself the means to become that person that you want to be, to build that circle of friendships. If you get to the point where you're dreading Mondays, you might need the Launchpad, because the idea of being lost on any given day of the week only means you're not being able to bring yourself to see that horizon, that focus point, and to guide yourself towards that success in spite of the negatives of our lives, and to use every day of the week, every living moment, if you will, to become more than we are. When you have forgotten, or believe you have forgotten how to have fun, you don't even know what fun looks like anymore, you more than likely need the Launchpad, because Nycos Launchpad not only helps you reopen pathways to the things that made you joyful when you were younger, they also afford you a whole raft of new opportunities that you may have not considered, that will give you a place, a realm, if you will, in your own head, in order to become a more fun person. You can see more joy in everything that you want. If analysis paralysis is your default, if that's where your brain goes on every decision that you can run into, you may need the Launchpad, because when you are drawn down because you can't make decisions, it's simply because you haven't given yourself enough options to consider. And Nycos Launchpad provides you not only a stronger bed of creativity, but it also gives you a mechanism and the permission to make decisions. And when you have those, there's no longer any analysis paralysis. You can make an action, recognize the wins and losses from it, and then make new choices and make things better. So the concept of the Launchpad is this: imagination in all environments will suit everyone to a T. If there's something you need, something you don't have in life, and you want to get to it, you have to imagine it. You have to create it in your mind, and you have to find ways to afford yourself the opportunities. And Launchpad is the solution. So if you've seen anything in this video that has struck you, that points out what you would like to have in your life that you don't, if there are ways of being that you have forgotten or have let go of in the past, reach out to Nycos Launchpad, and let's do what we can to help you get back on the pathway to the success you want in your life. Alrighty, so we have reached the end, and this is NycosRPG. We've been on the air only about a half an hour, which is about my regular amount. If you are watching and want to know more, feel free to put anything you want into the chat. I'll be glad to respond to it. If you have, if you like what you're seeing so far and want to be a part of the community, you can join us at patreon.com. Let me share all those links to you here. NycosRPG.com will give you information on how to purchase the product that we are developing. We also have NycosRPG.info, which is the lore and the story behind the role-playing games that I regularly run. We also have our Discord channel, which is down below on this page. I've made sure that the link still operates, but you can also find us in other places. In the future, I'll have a way to show you here in Discord, in Twitch, where that Discord page is. To follow more stories, you can check us out here on twitch.tv/NycosRPG every night at 11 p.m. Or you can also learn more about us at our YouTube page at NycosRPG. This is Jonathan Albin, Game Master J. I want to thank you for